You have a dog who is scared, barking, lunging, growling, snapping at strangers and new people, you're in the right place. That's what we're going to chat about today. I'm actually going to answer some questions that we got from our community about this topic that we call stranger danger quite frequently, just when dogs are suspicious, feeling not so great about new people. And we often see behaviours like maybe just difficulty listening to the human guardian, difficulty eating, pulling on the lead, trying to run away, jumping, barking, mouthing, biting, all sorts of things. And if you're here and any of this resonates with you, let me know in the comment section what's going on with you and your dogs so we can all see, because you'll be amazed how many people struggle with this. In fact, I myself struggled with this with my first ever dog, Hera, and that was 7 years ago when I first got him. I've been a dog trainer now for 8 years, and I specialize in working with cases where we have dogs who struggle with new people, with stranger danger. We have worked with thousands of clients on these particular issues, and it's part of our wider goal at Calm Canine Academy of helping dogs who struggle with trauma, significant mental health challenges, phobias, fears, anxiety, and doing it all in a way that is empowering, ethical, and most importantly, that's going to work. Now, my first dog, Hera, a little bit about him just to set the stage maybe. I got him when he was 4.5 months old. He had not had much socialization, and I think his genetics were like... And at the beginning when I first got him, he was just like aloof and kind of avoidant. But as he developed over adolescence, that started to look into more like lungy, barky behaviors, which then escalated to growling, lunging, barking, snapping, biting behaviors as he got into his adulthood around 3 years old. Now, for me and Hera, I had no freaking idea what I was doing. I just started and I was getting a whole bunch of weird conflicting information. So today I'm going to answer 3 questions where a lot of our clients and a lot of our community members actually asked these questions to me over the last week. So I've compiled them and I'm going to go through them one by one. And before I go on, I just want to let you know, if any of this resonates, if you're interested in any of this, we have a free webinar next week with Every Dog Austin, and it's called Stranger Danger, 4 Steps to Introducing Your Dog to New People. And if any of this is interesting to you, you should absolutely go and sign up for that webinar. It's for free, so you could go to the Calm Canine Academy Instagram page, and you'll see pinned at the top is the invitation, and you can get access there, or you can DM us and we'll give you the access link. All right, so the first question that we're going to be talking about today around stranger danger dogs is my dog behaving in this way to be protective over me or to be dominant, or is it that they're being disobedient? Like, are they being naughty? Because often people come to me and they're like, they're really well trained, they know their cues, they'll respond really well, except when there are people around. Why is it that they don't listen? And I think it's important just at the beginning to understand, when it comes to these sorts of behaviors, that our dogs are not operating from a logical place. This is more often than not a fear response, an overwhelm response, and an involuntary response. And it's usually because either the dogs were never exposed to all varieties of human beings at a young age, and by a young age I mean like before 12 weeks old, so we're like talking really young here. So that could be what's causing this. They might have had some instances with people which they deemed to be really scary and significant, so trauma might have come into play. But often we find that even if our dogs are just not introduced to humanity in all of humanity's spectrums, they might struggle if they get older. And this often comes to a head around adolescence, so around 8 months, and then escalates often if not addressed quickly between the 8-month and 3-4 years of age. So I want to just double down on, like, often people, I think a lot to do with pop culture and TV shows, like we go, they're being protective, they're trying to be dominant. Hello, Hera, are you yawning? Hi. Yeah, sorry, my dog is making noises down here. Often people say, they're trying to be dominant, you have to show them who's boss. But the reality, when we actually look into this more and we dissect the body language that the dogs are showing in this moment, even though they look big and tough sometimes, underneath that big tough persona is usually an animal that's feeling super insecure, doesn't really know how to get their needs for safety met, or in some cases their needs for social connection met, because those two things are conflicting within them. So I just want to like bat away this idea that your dogs are like conspiring to be naughty in these moments, that your dogs are choosing to be disobedient. That is absolutely not what's happening. Like my dog Hera down here was, I literally a little dog genius. Like when he was young, he'd be able to do 1,000 different tricks. He could loose leash walk in Manhattan. He could, you know, settle for 5 minutes in a room full of dogs, but he was scared of new people. And so when someone approached him in our home when he was cornered and went, "Hey buddy," it wasn't about training for him. It was about a visceral reflexive response that takes place, kind of like if I go boo and you go ah. It's not like you're choosing to have that response, it is involuntary. All right, 1 second. Hera, excuse me. All right, ready? Come up here, quick. He wants to come and sit up with us. So, oh my goodness, what are you doing? You're so silly. Okay. Oh, all right, sorry my loves. Well, as you can see, these days Hera has no problem with me and also no problem with other people. So he's very, very friendly. This is our Hera. He used to really dislike people, and I often found that people would really respond negatively to his behavior if he growled or barked or snapped. You know, people would tell me, "You have to show him who's boss. You have to show him that that's not okay." I got a lot of that. And being like little femme princess that I am, you know, I got a lot of "silly little girl, you don't know what you're doing." Now, let's talk about that a little bit more, because what people are essentially saying in those statements is that we need to sort of train, meaning program the dog to behave differently via forcing them to comply to obedience, or by training obedience to a level where they have kind of are going to respond. So like when I first had Hera, I made some mistakes, didn't I? Yes. I was trying to get him to heel past the strangers. I was getting him to sit stay around the strangers. I was having him do down stays while people moved around him. All of this actually made him much more anxious, because obedience is not the solution to an emotional dysregulation, to a feeling of unsafety. I should have focused on how he feels, not on his behaviors. Of course, his behaviors are indicative of how he feels, but they're only indicative if they're offered. If I'm saying down and telling him to lay down around something he's scared of, he would do it. But inside, he was not feeling super good. And so when people ask me, should I teach my dog, you know, to sit, stay, obedience, you know, when around new people, people often say to me, you know, my dog lunges and barks at people on walks, so I'd get them to sit, stay instead of lunging and barking. And I'm like, well, if you were scared of something and someone was like, I need you to just be completely still around this trigger, like, you might want to be like, "Ah, no," and move away, right? Like being stuck in an environment and being pressured into being still can be even more scary. So recapping, you're not being disobedient. You're not being a naughty dog. You're just really nervous sometimes around new people because people are a bit weird. Yeah, I get it. And at the beginning, when I tried to use obedience with Hera, listen, I was raised by first generation South Asian immigrant boomer parents. I was pushy. I'd be like, sit, and he'd go, I don't know. And I'd be like, come on, you know it, sit, you know it. And he basically was saying to me, yeah, bitch, I know it, but I feel like shit. I don't want to do it right now. And that's the piece of the puzzle that I did not understand. I didn't understand that obedience would not lead to him feeling better. And instead, what I needed to do was to come up with a system whereby he felt good, he wanted to interact with those people, and then developed a relationship with them. And that might seem impossible, especially if your dog like lunges and barks, if they even see someone at a distance. Like that's what he was like he'd see somebody and he'd be like giving them the fuck you eyes, you know, he'd be like, I'm gonna get you. And if they came in any closer, then that would become like posturing, and then if they etc., that would escalate. So even if you're seeing explosive behavior from your dogs, I don't want you to lose hope. I want you to still understand that your dog falls within the parameters of how we would approach something like this. So we're not going to be focusing on obedience, and obedience meaning like traditional obedience. That does not mean we don't need to develop communication and teach reliable cues. The difference to me between like something like obedience and something like therapy work is the difference between a military officer barking orders at someone and a therapist having a collaborative conversation, a back and forth, where there is agency and it's very much led by the learner as opposed to by the teacher. So that's the shift that really opened up doors for me and Hero, because I introduced him to loads of people and he was like, fine, I'll tolerate you. But it wasn't until I switched to this new kind of way of thinking that things became magical. And I think the last question that we got from folks was really helpful around this point, and it was, should I give new people food to feed to my dog to build positive associations so that my dog learns that new people mean food? I did this too. And it makes sense, right? Like, my dog likes food, my dog doesn't like people, so if people give my dog food, then my dog will like people. Unfortunately, these little babies are much more complicated than that, and I kind of think that's why we like them. They're not. They have, their waters run deep, they have complexity, they have deep inner lives. And for many of our dogs, it's not just as simple as like cookie equals good. So for Hero, for example, what would happen is I would be really good at training with him and make him really enjoy training with me because it's an outlet for him. He's a poodle. He was bred to work. He wants to work with me cooperatively with human beings. And so I would use really high value food. Genetically, he's already inclined to really want to work with me. He's a captive animal, so I control all of his food. And then what I would do is I would put that food in the hands of someone that he was really scared of. And I'd say, if you want it, you have to go get it from them. And in my head, I was like, this is Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob, give Hera a treat. But Hera was not ready for that. And I ended up using food in a way that was coercive and actually lying to him by saying, you're safe, go get that food. But then he'd go and reach and he'd get that food, and then Uncle Bob would shift his weight and Hero would suddenly skitter and run out of the room, or he would go to get the food and then Uncle Bob would reach and say, hey, what's up? And then he would lunge and bark like crazy. If we are seeing our dogs on the edge like that, there is likely significant conflict going on within them. And it was only when I realized that I had been, to use the tale of Icarus, I'd been flying too close to the sun with Hera in a way that was actually really dangerous. And what it actually did, I messed up so bad that he ended up not really taking food from me, struggling to eat in general because food became so heavily associated with these really stressful situations. And he just got in the habit now of going way too close for comfort to these people because I'd encouraged that. And then he would freak out because he was too close. And I was like, what is wrong with you? At the time, he'd go right up to someone and be like, and then they'd be like, hey buddy. And then he'd be like, wah, 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 or even worse. And I didn't understand it until I started to make these adjustments and see the changes. And so often we are trying to avoid putting our dogs in situations where they are being coerced into interacting with human beings. And instead, we're trying to facilitate scenarios where they are genuinely getting curious, genuinely interested, and kind of able to gather information in a way that doesn't have that tinge of anxiety around that. And if you're listening to that, you're like, how? Excuse me? Well, that's why the webinar comes in. I could talk loads more today, but I can't because I have a meeting in 10 minutes. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be discussing in more depth in the webinar. It's going to be an hour long. So I would go to our page or DM us, direct message us if you can't find the link to sign up. And we'll see you. It's next week on Wednesday. It's the 6th of March. So it's 6 days from now. Additionally, if you want more information on this and how we approach this, we have a webinar library on our website, which has, I think, 2 hour-long webinars about reactivity and stranger danger. So if you want to start learning now and kickstart your education, you should go to the link in our bio. You can see webinar library, go to the webinar library. It's 100% free. Go watch those videos, because that will give you a new level of depth, and then we'll see you on Wednesday and we can chat a little bit more about that. You're saying you signed up and you can't wait. I can't wait to see you there. It's going to be super fun. I'm really excited to go into like the steps that I've used with Hera, and then with literally we're talking hundreds and hundreds of other clients, and we do this with them in our program. So either our Feisty Fido program, which is like the introductory program for dogs who struggle with even watching someone from far away. And then we have a stranger danger program where we kind of build your dog's circle of friends. We have practice people coming into the home and kind of go to that next level. So this is a specialty area of ours. You know, we really specialize in issues with people, dogs, separation, the city, that kind of stuff. So this is somewhere that sort of topic that I really like to chat about, and it's a topic that you like to chat about too, isn't it? Because you used to not have any friends, and now he has 25 human friends. And by human friends, I mean like inner circle human friends who can come over to the house, who can, you know, lay on the floor, who can dance in the living room, you know, and there are no issues. And he can make friends in one sitting. Like, he can meet someone once and then he can be friends with them. When we first started working, it took 7 to 10 different introductions before he was like, okay, you cool. So yeah, the stuff we can do is pretty cool. I'm really excited, and I'll see you all next week on Wednesday. Thank you for watching. I hope this was interesting and enjoyable, and you can comment below if you have any questions, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them in the webinar next week. All right, cheers my loves, bye.